Welcome, friends. Tonight, I'm going to tell you 5 disturbing horror stories. Sit back, relax, and let your nightmares take control. In 2015, Caleb Rivers was a cybersecurity student at a small community college in Minnesota. Quiet, introverted, and exceptional at code, he often stayed up until 4 a.m. digging into darknet forums, mostly out of curiosity. But curiosity, as he'd come to learn, is the prelude to ruin. One night, while scanning Tor hidden services for security vulnerabilities to use in a class paper, Caleb stumbled upon a site titled White Rabbit Market. No drug listings, no guns, just a single black screen with white courier text. Find what you lost. He thought it was a puzzle, a trapdoor test site like Cicada 3301, so he poked around. The source code was a maze of scrambled JavaScript with embedded PGP hashes. The site demanded a special key to go further, which Caleb brute-forced in 3 hours. What unfolded wasn't a riddle site. It was a classified section for stolen. Listings were categorized by continents. Under North America, Caleb found tabs labeled indentured, obedient, and ghosts. Each listing had photos. The people were always seated, eyes swollen or faces blurred, sometimes with GPS coordinates attached. One photo stuck with him. A woman, early 30s, handcuffed to a radiator in what looked like a motel. Her eyes screamed a word the photo couldn't transmit. Please. He wanted to believe it was faked. But the image had EXIF data oddly preserved, something no one careful on the dark web would leave behind. The GPS tag led to Rockford, Illinois. Caleb contacted the FBI. They brushed him off. "We get hundreds of these tips weekly," the agent said. "It's all staged content. Shock value. Kids trying to scare each other." So Caleb drove to Rockford himself. He found the motel, room 112. The wallpaper matched, but it was empty, smelled of bleach. The manager said a man with a prepaid visa had checked out the day before. Caleb went deeper. He logged in daily. The White Rabbit Market had no login page, but once a browser cookie was injected into his Tor session, the site remembered him. Each visit showed new content, live cams, tracking info, message boards with titles like, "What do you feed them?" and "Best sedation tips." Every section had a ranking system. He noticed one user, Monarch_77, had thousands of karma points and posted almost daily. Monarch uploaded logs from GPS trackers, screen grabs of CCTV, and even chat logs with buyers negotiating drop points. Then one post chilled him to the marrow, a thread titled Minnesota Pickup, 22YO, female, isolated with a timestamp. Tomorrow, 3:12 a.m. Coordinates were posted. It was 3 towns over from Caleb. Caleb made the decision without thinking. He borrowed his dad's pickup, parked 3 blocks away from the posted address, and waited in silence, phone camera recording at 3:09 a.m. A black van pulled up. A man in a ski mask emerged, walked up the porch, and picked the lock with calm precision. Caleb rushed in. He shouted. The man turned. A blur of adrenaline exploded, and Caleb tackled him. The police arrived 12 minutes later. They found chloroform, zip ties, a burner phone with GPS pings to dozens of cities, and a folder marked deliveries. The man refused to speak. The woman inside the house had been alone, sleeping. She had no idea she was being watched. The story made regional news. Local student thwarts kidnapping. The headlines read, "Caleb was praised for his vigilance." But that was only the surface. 2 weeks later, he received an email through a PGP-encoded anonymous Dropbox. The subject line, "Don't be a hero, rabbit." The message included screenshots of Caleb's family, home, and browser logs. They knew who he was. They'd been watching, too. Then came the body. An unnamed homeless man was found hanging from a highway overpass near Duluth. Tattooed into his thigh, a crude drawing of a white rabbit with a knife through its neck. FBI agents came to his door after that. This time, they were listening. Caleb was recruited as a confidential informant. His role: infiltrate the White Rabbit Market deeper, expose the admin, trace Monarch_77, and uncover whether the marketplace was a real trafficking ring or the darkest LARP in internet history. But it was real. In one forum, Caleb found a directory titled Auction Archive 2012 to 2014. There were bids on people. Some auctions closed. Others said delivered. He worked closely with a special division of the FBI cybercrime unit, feeding them data, URLs, code snippets. They moved slowly, too cautiously. Bureaucracy, warrants, jurisdictional messes. Meanwhile, users on White Rabbit disappeared. Not logged off, gone. Their profiles erased mid-thread, as if deleted live. Then Monarch_77 messaged him, "You found me. I see you." Caleb, "I don't know what you're talking about." Monarch_77, "Yes, you do. Your code is too neat. Your fear too quiet." Caleb, "Who are you?" Monarch_77, "Who are you? Caleb Rivers?" The next hour, Caleb's laptop was hijacked. The webcam light blinked on. His screen filled with white text. "We don't sell people. We sell obedience." He unplugged everything. But it was too late. On May 13th, 2016, the White Rabbit market vanished. Not shut down, vanished. No trace on mirrors, onion mirrors, or cab clone sites. It was as if it had been a mirage. A month later, a former U.S. Customs agent was arrested for conspiracy to traffic humans. His laptop held fragments of WRM's back-end code, linking to storage nodes in Moldova, Thailand, and Montana. But Monarch_77 was never found. Caleb dropped out of school. He started seeing a therapist. Developed insomnia. Every time he saw a white van, he felt his chest tighten. He moved to Portland under a new name and never touched the dark web again. Almost. In 2019, a Reddit post appeared on r/unresolved mysteries. Title, "What happened to the White Rabbit market?" One commenter, using a throwaway, wrote, "They sold people, not like what you think. They broke them, uploaded their lives, let others control them. Think smart homes, surveillance, slaves for the cloud." Monarch was real, still is. Caleb saw it. Replied once, "I saw her, room 112, then deleted his account. That night, someone left a white envelope at his new apartment door. Inside, a photograph of a woman handcuffed to a radiator. And on the back, handwritten in faded black ink, "Find what you lost." It started with a hyperlink. Julian hadn't meant to go deeper. He was just another bored cybersecurity major scrolling through obscure subreddits for creepypasta and digital myths. The thread was titled "Places You Should Never Visit on the Deep Web," half satire, half clickbait. But buried between the usual onion links to abandoned marketplaces and fake hitman services. One user posted a reply that read simply, "Echoes 23d7dk.onion, don't open this." Seriously, that was it. No description, no follow-up. Julian copied the address into his Tor browser. Of course he did. Curiosity was his vice, and boredom his enabler. The site loaded with agonizing slowness. The screen turned black. Then white text appeared in the center. "Welcome to ECHOES, listen closely." A low hum started. He thought it was just part of the website, some digital art installation, maybe an ARG. But something about the hum wasn't right. He couldn't mute it. The sound wasn't coming from his headphones. It was coming from somewhere else. That night, the hum followed him to bed. Julian lay awake as the faint vibration nestled into the back of his skull. It wasn't tinnitus. It was too rhythmic, too mechanical. He covered his ears, but the noise remained, pulsing softly like a distant engine. He jolted upright around 3:13 a.m. His laptop screen was on, even though he'd closed it. The same site was open, only now the text had changed. "We hear you, Julian. Do you hear US?" He slammed the lid shut and yanked the power cord. But the screen stayed on for a second longer, flickering before it finally died. The next day, Julian's roommate Mark came back from a weekend trip. He found Julian sitting on the couch, staring blankly at the black television screen. "Bro, you good?" Julian didn't respond at first. "Did you hear it?" he finally asked, voice barely a whisper. "Hear what?" Julian just looked at him, then shook his head like he was waking up from a dream. "Never mind. Just had a weird night." Mark shrugged and went to his room. 10 minutes later, the power in the entire apartment cut out. When the lights returned 15 seconds later, Every electronic screen in the house, TV, laptop, even the microwave, displayed the same message. We hear you. We're inside now. Julian went to the university's IT center the next day, determined to find a rational explanation. I think someone's planted malware on my system. It's broadcasting something. He left out the supernatural details. The tech support guy gave a bored nod and asked for the laptop. Julian handed it over. 5 minutes later, the tech looked pale. There's nothing on this hard drive, he said. What do you mean? I mean, it's blank. Completely empty. No OS, no partitions. It's like someone erased everything and then wrote over it with static. Julian leaned in. Static? The guy rotated the laptop toward him. The screen was filled with black and white flickers, like an old TV left on a dead channel. But deep inside the visual noise, Julian saw patterns. Symbols, faces, eyes. He yanked the device away and left. Back in his room, Julian decided to do one last search before throwing the laptop into a dumpster. He posted in a darknet hacker forum under an anonymous handle. Visited Echoes 23d7dk.onion. Strange activity. Anyone heard of it? Within seconds, he got a message. Anonymous user 4983. Too late. Julian typed back. What do you mean? No reply. Instead, he got sent a file. It was a compressed archive. Echoes_log93.tar. He scanned it with every tool he had. No viruses, no malware. Just one massive audio file inside, over 14 hours long. He hit play. At first, it was the hum. Then a voice. His own voice. Don't open this. Seriously. Julian recoiled. It was the Reddit post he read 3 nights ago. The file was a recording of his past. Not a memory. Not a simulation. A recording of his voice, his keystrokes, his breathing. It wasn't just logging him. It was watching. Mark went missing 2 days later. He'd been trying to help Julian debug the laptop again when the screens all went black. Julian had run to the kitchen to grab his phone, and when he came back, Mark was gone. No noise, no struggle, just gone. The TV was on, displaying static. The microwave clock had reset to 3:13. Julian searched everywhere, called the police, filed a report, but there were no signs of forced entry, no security footage. The cameras all showed static. When the police left, Julian collapsed onto the couch. The TV came back on. You left the door open. Now he's one of us. Julian turned to the only place he had left, the Deep Wetruth subreddit. He made a detailed post describing everything, the site, the hum, the disappearances. His account was banned within 3 minutes. A private message came from a new user, Zer0root. They're not a website. They're a signal, a frequency, an echo. Julian replied. An echo of what? No answer. Instead, he received another link, Echoes // a new protocol. When Julian clicked it, it didn't open in Tor. It opened in his command prompt. The screen filled with cascading lines of code. Then audio started to play. Only this time it wasn't his voice. It was Mark's, whispering, screaming, begging. Help me, Jewel. It's cold here. They're watching through the glass. And then, we told you not to listen. But now you do. Julian stopped sleeping. He saw things in mirrors, heard phantom audio in silent rooms. Static leaked from power outlets and speakers, even unplugged ones. He moved to a motel and destroyed every internet-enabled device he owned. Still, it wasn't enough. At night, he dreamed in code. He spoke in binary, woke up to find complex strings of hexadecimal carved into his walls, into his arms. He wasn't losing his mind. He was losing his signal integrity. He was becoming part of them. A frequency, disembodied. An echo. 2 weeks later, the Echoes protocol was leaked. It spread through file-sharing sites, hidden chat rooms, even Bluetooth transfers. It disguised itself as music, podcasts, live streams. And people listened. The more they listened, the louder it got. Across the world, reports began pouring in. People vanishing into thin air. Static faces appearing on smart TVs. Entire households going dark. All with one thing in common. They all visited the Echoes link. The last known message from Julian appeared on a hidden pastebin server. It's not a virus. It's not code. It's a place. A real one. Somewhere between frequencies where data dies and echoes live. Every deleted file, every lost thought, it all goes there. And they're listening. If you hear the hum, it's already too late. Don't follow the signal. Don't try to trace it. And for God's sake, never reply. Months later, a new post appeared on a darknet forum. Hey, I found this weird link. Looks like a music site or something. Anyone tried it yet? One user replies, "Don't open this. Seriously." Lucas Meyer wasn't just another hacker for hire. At 28, he had a reputation across darknet forums as a ghost engineer, someone who could infiltrate virtually any encrypted system, leave no trace, and pull data from dead nodes. His skills had earned him Bitcoin from clients who weren't the type to ask for receipts. But Lucas had one rule: never pull from anything labeled archive. It was an unspoken understanding in the community. Files or nodes tagged archive weren't backups or data dumps. They were warnings, red flags planted by other hackers, often from closed FBI stings, failed snuff sites, or worse, unfinished projects. But on the night of March 18th, a Romanian client going by the handle Mothedust offered Lucas $80,000 in Monero to pull a single file from an abandoned server in Moldova. The instructions were specific. Use a preloaded Raspberry Pi rig. Connect via a chained relay through Latvia, France, and Bulgaria. Access only the folder titled archive_VT021. Mothedust's message ended with a note. Don't open the video, just download and send. You open it, I don't pay you. Your choice. Easy money, Lucas thought. The server was nearly dead, low traffic, weak security. He cracked it in under 40 minutes. Inside was the archive_VT021 folder. Timestamped February 17, 2014. That date sparked something in Lucas's memory. A news story years ago, something about a police raid in Moldova. A human trafficking ring. Dozens of missing kids. Bodies in the woods. He shook it off and extracted the contents. 3 encrypted images, 1 TXT file, and a 700 megabytes MKV video file titled Valentina_room1309.mkv. The name Valentina hit him harder. It was his sister's name. He stared at the screen. The room around him was silent, except for the gentle hum of his fans. Lucas opened the text file. File, Valentina.log, March 2014 session 09A. Subject 3, Valentina T. Notes. Subject held for 13 days. Initial compliance via sedation. Session escalated after day 5. She started singing to the camera on day 9. That's when the man with no face came in. Final clip extracted for archive before server shutdown. No known survivors from batch 3A. Lucas stared at the last line. No known survivors from batch 3A. He couldn't breathe. He remembered his sister disappearing in 2014 on a trip to Ukraine. Everyone assumed she had been abducted, likely murdered. Her case went cold. He had been too afraid to dig deeper. But now the file had a name, a date, a video. He clicked play. Midnight to 3 o'clock. The footage was grainy, night vision green. A small concrete room. No windows. One metal bed, no sheets. In the center sat a girl, maybe 15 or 16, barefoot, knees pulled to her chest. She rocked slowly, whispering something under her breath. The camera was fixed, likely mounted in a corner. Lucas's stomach twisted. It was her, Valentina, 3 to 10 o'clock. Suddenly, the girl snapped her head toward the camera. Her lips moved in a whisper. "I know you're watching." She stared, unblinking. Lucas leaned closer. Her eyes were hollow, as if life had left them days ago. Then, a sound. The door creaked open behind her. A tall, gaunt man stepped into frame, face obscured by a crude stitched mask. He said nothing. He held a mirror in one hand and placed it on the ground facing her. Then the screen flickered. 10:01 to 14:30, the footage glitched. When it returned, Valentina was screaming. But the audio was reversed. Her words played backward, warping into distorted echoes. The man now stood in the corner, motionless. The mirror began to fog up on its own. No one breathed near it. Suddenly, on the fogged glass, a message appeared. As if traced by an invisible finger, "Stop watching." Lucas yanked his headphones off and shut the laptop. He sat in the dark, sweating. His reflection in the monitor was pale, eyes bloodshot. A soft click behind him made him jump, the sound of his external drive disconnecting on its own. Then his phone buzzed. Unknown number, no ID, one message. "You watched it. Now you belong to it." March 21st, 2017 to 3 days later, Lucas hadn't left his apartment. He had sealed every vent, unplugged every camera. But things kept happening. The lights would flicker at exactly 3:09 a.m. His emails deleted themselves. Audio logs of the video began appearing on his desktop, even though he wiped the file from every device. The final message arrived in the form of a WAV file attached to an email from his own address. It simply said, "Do you want to see where she is now?" Lucas opened it. It was a woman's voice, soft, familiar. "Lucas, I'm still here, in the room. You just have to find me." The glow of the laptop screen was the only light in Emma's cramped Brooklyn apartment. It was 2 a.m., and the city outside was a distant hum of sirens and late-night traffic. Emma, a 27-year-old freelance journalist with a knack for chasing stories that scared her, had been chasing whispers about the dark web for months. Her latest lead came from a Reddit thread buried under layers of deleted comments. A user named Cypherwalk claimed to have stumbled across something called the Hidden Auction on a Tor browser. No drugs, no weapons, just information. The kind of information that could ruin lives or topple empires. Emma had always been skeptical of dark web horror stories. Most were exaggerated, spun by thrill seekers or trolls. But Cypherwalk's post was different. It wasn't boastful or vague. It was precise. A .onion link, a timestamp, and a warning. Don't bid unless you're ready to lose more than money. She'd saved the link, her curiosity outweighing her caution. Tonight, she was ready to dive in. She opened her Tor browser, the sluggish connection a reminder of the encrypted labyrinth she was entering. The dark web wasn't the internet's underbelly, not exactly. It was more like its shadow, a place where anonymity could be a shield or a weapon. Emma had read about its origins. A U.S. Department of Defense project in the 1990s to protect covert communications, later released as the Tor network for activists and whistleblowers. But noble intentions had curdled over time. Now it was a marketplace for the unthinkable. The Onion link loaded slowly, revealing a minimalist page with a black background and green text. No flashy graphics, just a timer counting down from 12 hours and a login prompt. Emma hesitated. She'd taken precautions. Her laptop was air-gapped, her VPN was active, and she'd taped over her webcam after reading a Quora post about a user whose camera light flickered on during a dark web session. Still, her pulse quickened as she typed a random username and password, half expecting a "We see you" message to pop up. Instead, she was in. The hidden auction wasn't what she'd imagined. No grainy live streams or cryptic riddles. It was a list of lots, each with a description and a starting bid in Bitcoin. Lot 1, Corporate Email Archive, Fortune 500, 2018 to 2023. Lot 2, Passport Scans, 10,000 unique IDs, EU citizens. Lot 3, Medical Records, U.S. Hospital Network, 1.2 million patients. The bids were already in the thousands, and the timer ticked relentlessly. Emma's stomach churned. This wasn't a game. This was stolen data, the kind that fueled ransomware attacks or identity theft. She scrolled further, her journalist's instinct kicking in. Lot 7 caught her eye. Classified dossier, U.S. government contractor, Project Orion. The description was sparse, but the bidding was fierce, already at 50 BTC, roughly $2 million. Emma had heard of Project Orion, a rumored DARPA initiative involving AI-driven surveillance. If this dossier was real, it could be the story of her career. But bidding was out of the question. She didn't have that kind of money, and even if she did, she wasn't about to fund criminals. Instead, she took screenshots, her fingers trembling. She'd write the story, expose the auction, and maybe tip off the FBI. But as she captured the screen, a chat window popped up in the corner. New user 927. You're not here to bid, are you? The message was from someone called Auctioneer. Emma froze. She hadn't interacted with anyone. How did they know she was here? She typed back, keeping it vague. Just looking. The response was instant. Lookers don't last long. Bid or leave. Emma's heart pounded. She closed the chat, but another message appeared. We know you're in Brooklyn. Her breath caught. It was a bluff, had to be. Tor was supposed to hide her location, but she remembered a Reddit story about a user tracked despite using Tor. Their real name called out in a reply. She shut her laptop, the screen's glow fading. The apartment felt too quiet, the shadows too deep. She checked the locks on her door, then reopened the laptop. The auction was still there, the timer now at 11 hours. Against her better judgment, she kept scrolling. Lot 12, Video Archive, Private Collection, Philippines. The description was chillingly vague, but the bids were low, only 5 BTC. A footnote read, "Viewer discretion advised." Emma's mind flashed to Peter Scully, an Australian who'd run a dark website in the Philippines, selling videos of unimaginable cruelty. He'd been caught in 2015, sentenced to life for human trafficking and worse. His case had shocked the world, not just for the crimes but for the platform he'd built, a marketplace where depravity was currency. Was this lot connected to something like that? She didn't click the preview link. She couldn't. Instead, she opened a new tab and searched X for hidden auction. A few posts mentioned it, mostly from crypto enthusiasts debating its legitimacy. One user at Darknet Diaries had posted about a similar site in 2020, hinting at a sting operation that never materialized. Emma's hope flickered. Maybe law enforcement was already watching. She drafted an anonymous email to an FBI tip line, attaching her screenshots. But before she could hit send, her laptop crashed. When it rebooted, the Tor browser was gone. Not uninstalled, gone, as if it had never existed. Her screenshots were missing too. Emma's mouth went dry. She checked her router logs, a trick she'd learned from a hacker friend. Someone had accessed her network at 2:17 a.m. She unplugged the router, her hands shaking. The dark web wasn't just a place you visited. It followed you. The next morning, Emma went to a coffee shop to use their Wi-Fi. She resent the tip from a burner email, then started writing her story. She didn't have proof anymore, but she had her memory. She described the auction, the lots, the threats. She referenced the Silk Road, shut down in 2013 after its founder, Ross Ulbricht, was arrested for running a $1.2 billion drug empire. She mentioned Alphabi, its successor, which fell in 2017. The dark web was a hydra, cut off one head and another grew back. As she wrote, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Stop digging. Emma's blood ran cold. She powered off her phone, paid for her coffee, and left. Back at her apartment, she found her front door slightly ajar. Nothing was missing, but a single garden gnome sat on her kitchen counter. She'd read about Get Gnomed, a dark web prank where users sent gnomes to intimidate targets. It wasn't funny anymore. Emma stopped writing the story. She deleted her notes, wiped her laptop, and moved to a friend's place in Queens. But the dark web didn't forget. A week later, she received an email with a single attachment, a photo of her at the coffee shop, taken from across the street. The subject line read, Lot 13, Emma Carter. She contacted the FBI, but they were skeptical without evidence. People make up dark web stories all the time, the agent said. Emma didn't argue. She knew the truth. The dark web wasn't just a marketplace. It was a mirror reflecting humanity's worst impulses. For every whistleblower using Tor to expose corruption, there was a predator like Scully or a kingpin like Ulbricht. Emma never returned to the dark web. She took a job at a local paper, writing about community events instead of conspiracies. But late at night, when the city was quiet, she'd check her locks and wonder who was still bidding on Lot 13. The hidden auction was gone, its .onion link dead. But somewhere, in the shadow of the internet, another auction was starting. And someone somewhere was watching. They called it a routine expedition, just a group of experienced hikers chasing the silence of the mountains. But what happened in that frozen place? buried beneath snow and silence, remains one of the most chilling unsolved mysteries in modern history. It was February 1st, 1959, when 9 hikers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, set up camp on the slope of Kolytsyakhl, a name the local Monsey people called Mountain of the Dead. They never made it out, but this story isn't about them. This is about my grandfather. He never talked much about the war or the cold, or even the things he'd seen in Siberia. But on the night before he died, in the haze of painkillers and slipping time, he told me a story that's haunted me ever since. I was part of the search team, he began, eyes fixed on something behind the ceiling. After the students went missing, when the group didn't return on schedule, the authorities hesitated to act. These were seasoned hikers. Delays were normal. But when their radio silence stretched beyond a week, a search and rescue team was sent. Grandfather, then a 24-year-old mountaineer in the reserves, was drafted into the team due to his knowledge of the terrain. The area was treacherous, isolated, and brutally cold. 40 below zero at night, with wind that could strip flesh from bone. They reached the campsite on February 26th. I remember the tent first, he said. That's when we knew something was wrong. It had been slashed from the inside. Whatever made them flee, it terrified them enough to cut their way out. Boot prints led down the slope, barefoot and in socks. Some were in one shoe. In that cold, they wouldn't have survived more than a few minutes. But it wasn't just exposure. They didn't just freeze, he whispered, clutching my wrist with bony fingers. One of them had her tongue torn out. Another had his chest crushed, ribs like paper. No external wounds, just caved in, like something had pushed down with inhuman force. I thought it was the drugs talking, until he said something strange. We were told to keep quiet. Military came in the next day, took the bodies, took everything. But what my grandfather never explained what he couldn't, was why he returned to the site alone. 3 months later, he hiked back to the mountain. Alone. No compass. No gear. He vanished for 3 days. When he returned, frostbitten and silent, he never spoke of what he saw. Until that night. I went back to find the truth, he said. Something about it wouldn't leave me alone. The silence. The looks on their faces. I asked him why he did it. Why go back? He didn't answer for a long time. Finally, he said, because I heard them calling. The second night on the mountain, he camped near the ravine where some of the bodies had been found. He thought he heard footsteps crunching the snow outside his tent. When he unzipped it, no one was there. But then came the voices, not in the wind, but beneath it, calling his name. I thought it was the wind, he said, until it got closer, until it whispered the names of the dead. He stepped outside. The moon was high, casting long shadows across the snow. That's when he saw the tracks. Large, deeper than his, not human. They circled his tent, then vanished into the trees. He followed them. He doesn't know why. They led me to a cave, not marked on any map, just a crack in the rock, hidden behind drifts of snow. The air was unnaturally warm inside, wet. He descended into it without a flashlight. The smell, it was sweet like rot, and there were symbols on the walls. Not Russian, not anything I'd ever seen. Inside, he found what looked like bones, arranged in patterns. That's when the whispering started again. I turned to run, but I wasn't alone anymore. He never described what he saw, only that it moved like smoke but sounded like ice breaking. It didn't want me there. When he woke, he was outside the cave. Frostbitten, near death. Something had carried him out. I think it let me go, he said, but not before I saw what it really was. The next morning, he walked off the mountain. He never told anyone, not the police, not my grandmother, but every year, on the anniversary of the Dyatlov deaths, he'd light 9 candles and sit silently in the dark. I thought that was the end of the story, a dying man's confession, a Cold War mystery too deep to ever understand. But 2 weeks after he died, I received a package. No return address. Inside was his journal, the one he'd carried during the search mission. Most of it was blank, except for one page. February 27th, 1959. The tent was slashed from the inside, like they were trying to escape something. but the snow had no sign of pursuit. Until I looked closer, the tracks were heavy, like something was crawling, dragging itself up from beneath. One of the students had written something in her diary the night before they died. We heard whistling in the trees. Then the forest went silent. She drew a symbol, same one I saw in the cave. Beneath the entry was a crude sketch, a circle with jagged lines radiating from it, almost like an eye or a sun. I didn't sleep that night. I had to see it for myself. The mountain is still closed to civilians in the winter. But that didn't stop me. I bribed a guide, told him I was just a historian researching Cold War expeditions. We reached the pass in early March, cold as death. The tent's remains are long gone, but the ground still holds memories. And I found it, the cave, exactly where he said. It wasn't empty. Inside were bones, human, old, arranged in a spiral pattern just like my grandfather described, and symbols, etched into the rock, burned into it like brands. As I turned to leave, I heard it, a low whistling, not wind, not an animal. It was inside my head, and then the whispering began. They called me by name. I ran. I didn't stop until I reached the treeline, but I didn't escape, because now, every year on the same night, I hear the voices too, in my dreams, in the dark, calling me back to the mountain. Author's note: the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the most terrifying and unexplained mysteries in history. Though many theories exist, from avalanche to military experiments to paranormal forces, none have fully accounted for the bizarre injuries and circumstances. This story is a fictionalized retelling inspired by real facts, with names and key details preserved from the historical record. Be careful what you search for in the mountains. Some answers do not want to be found. Thank you for listening. Hope I didn't scare you too much. Let me know which one did you like the most and why. Sweet dreams.